Hello again. I'm Jack Dempsey, writer and historian, and I'm bringing out a new book this year called People of the Sea, a novel of the Promised Land. In conjunction with a earlier video I did talking about, well, why these people of the sea matter to us now, which you'll also find here at YouTube, I'd like to just share with you a few short readings from the work so you can hear the kind of language that I've tried to use to evoke the ancient world. And in the beginning of the book, there's a small author's note, which I'll share first as a way of orienting you to what the heck we're talking about. Again, thanks for your time. Hope you enjoy it. The Western heritage is older than books and more telling. From about 3500 to the 1400s BCE, the families of Minoan Crete and their surround of Mediterranean peoples kept on developing their web of cultures. Neither primitive nor utopian, they were centered in cycles of nature in their ancestors, kinship, festival, and trade. Because of them, the first 2,000 years of that heritage progressed without entrenched kings. So began Ariadne's Brother, a novel on the fall of Bronze Age Crete, shown here, 1996, and People of the Sea tries to speak further from the lives and adventures of these unheard ancestors, returning to the sun in new, precise, and dramatic archaeology. Natural disasters, invasions, and political change drove many small kin groups and banded individuals to migrate and mix with their neighbors, from Troy to Gaza, from Cyprus to Sicily, from Libya and Egypt to the Near East. 10 generations after the fall of Crete's Knossos labyrinth, some of their Iron Age peers called them sea peoples. Egypt and the Old Testament inscribed them as brutish invaders. What do the sciences say of their Pulasati, or Philistines' creation of Palestine in Canaan? Did they sorely oppress the inland Hebrew tribes, as the Bible says, to keep the emergent Israeli, the Israelites, in their power? Well, People of the Sea, in this book, a man who was once a Minoan priest chief lives to see those days. His tale explores fact with fiction and fiction with fact. So let me move right to the beginning of the story, where different representatives of these sea peoples' tribes, there's a dozen of them plus one, get together at the extremity of their misfortunes and their dispossession to decide to attack Egypt. This happened perhaps around 1186, 1177 BCE, and it's the watershed moment where the tide of the sea peoples sweeping across the Mediterranean, bringing down every kingdom within sight of the ocean, come to their last hurrah, you might say. Not that they were in it for conquest, but rather that they were trying to find new land in which to settle and raise their families. A human story enough. So as they gather, a woman stands up at this council around a fire next to the sea, and she tells their creation story. As ever, first to rise, Pelasgi, and a woman, a Turan, as we say, lady, picks the name, a daughter of Earth Gaia's first human beings. In every one of you that blood bears memory of your first mothers and fathers, and sure as your feet know the paths of your grandmother's orchards, we know Goddess brought herself forth and gave being space and light in parting waters from the sky. Her senses, like a crane rising into the morning, rose to the goodness, and in joy she spoke her name of great dominion, Eurynome. The word in its vast vibration of her happiness became a rhythm, and her body danced a gentle joy that rose within her senses to the knowing of her own infinitude. Her spirit moved in love on the face of the waters, and her dance raised up prodigious wind behind her, shimmering, quick bright, silver, a thing mysterious, beautiful, a monster who came awake in love with what he saw. Hi! Snake, prodigious beast of being following her, became her partner in this dancing of the world. Hi! Beyond themselves, beyond the world's pillars, together the dance love incarnate, the horned new moon, the cradle of infant suns, the swaying of the sea beside the sky. His wanting her is the deep waters girdling the world, the serpent in the swaying of my hips and in our gardens, holy communions. To her he poured his coiled up innards out, and love brought forth the egg that birthed the world. Who remembers this world young, full moon, the sun, full moon, the mate of summer sun, the first dawn of Gi, when the green mountains sang in flowers, rivers clapped hands, and every star of morning shouted joy? Pelasgi. And so with our first eyes we see the ruin you bloodsick boys have wrought, you kings, you walled-up thieves who made us peasants. 600 spears of family come running to this fight, black as this remembering blood between us. Tell you why. Never once surrendered, not a child of us, to that first fool of you posted at your crotch. Snake, prodigious Ophion, the father of your imbecilic lies, who saw the splendor of the world and told his mother and her young, I made you. She gave him her good heel across the head, kicked his teeth out too, to help him think again. And from those teeth, Pelasgians were born. I give you this, it's why we make such troubles. Younglings of the never-conquered sun, we are the West, the flight from madness. Demons of you all, ragged tribes, silent, sullen, proud, 1st and 13th people of the world. Flood riders, children of the cranes, the salt in you, raisers of gigantic stones that outlive memories of men. Gozo, Nuragi, seed of the Turini, from Thessaly through the Cyclades and the great 12 isles of Asia. We taught men's hands the ways of grain, and now we scrape for food in holes of mice. Squanderers of seed, great chiefs dispossessed by wishes, taste in smoke and fire what we bore first. Do not say it, Achaeans of the south and north, Argivi, ironheads, that your fathers did not take our grandmothers' groves, their mysteries and children from Argos plain to Mother Crete's isles, Miletus, Troy. Never speak again that we forget the great homes roofed with rainbow tiles, shining by the sea at Lerna. The first age of the world, you turned to slavery and ash. Your broke-toothed misery is goddess law come down, and we rejoice. Aye, tomorrow the last of our bloods marry after all, on Ramses' jaw-hook blade or a spread of bottomland. See you at the altar. After this woman speaks, many others get up and tell how they feel about what they have to do now, where they're coming from, a little bit of their cultural history, so that for the first time in People of the Sea, we get to hear the voices, the histories of these people who have never spoken before, except through the minimum of artifacts and ruins that we have. But lots of new tools have brought new things to light about them. And I believe this is the first book to try to give voice to that. After that prologue, our main narrator, called Deucalion, who was a Minoan priest chief, is now, having been a young man during the conquest, now he's a grumpy old man living in exile on a very severe, rugged mountaintop in the heartland of Crete, up on the Lassithi Plateau, a place called Carfi. And the beginning of the first chapter proper of the story begins with his reawakening after being hit by lightning, and a new resolve takes over. The chapter is called Metanoia, meaning a change of mind. Are you gone mad? Burn Knossos Labyrinth, your own family's house. Criminal, said another, talking slaughter like some king. Then what? All sweet wine didn't mean those things, said the gray goat-bearded priest who was kneeling over me, flat on my back like an X in a pile of bedskins, my head a mountain coming out of mist. It was Marcus, gazing down with a new moon smile. Please, you two, he said, the man was struck by lightning and good as dead 3 days. Let a brother get his breath. Marcus pulled the old hides off my bones and worked his hands like a midwife's up and down. Revived out of nowhere, mountain air ran along my flesh, a breath of wings. And that first full drink of it, cold as black water from a spring, swirled through me. It was an ecstasy of waking up, and underneath all being, an undulating sorrow that time would not change. Go on now, men, cry the town that Deucalion lives. We dance and festival while the New Year's sun stands still. Find the women and his sons. The two incensed cousin townsmen grunted and turned for the dolmen door. One thumped his boot on the threshold and spoke without looking back. "Hey, priest, ask this unconquered son why as soon as he swore blood, a griffin's tongue of lightning blew him off the sanctuary. Not with our sons. Out!" "Where?" "Carfi, a colossal gray, crag-faced spike of granite rising straight up from the shoulders of a mountain, hammered like a nail in the heart of our island, Mother Crete. Whoever sailed the sea miles below or stole up into this country, Carfi saw them first. Old times of our mothers and fathers, Carfi was a high place of dance, of feast and healing between the stars and the horned mountain caves of our family sleep. Now, in a world torn off its wheel, the nail was a refuge that only self-exiles would choose, a hostile crag as far as possible from homes we could not let go." He begins to awaken to what they have to do because the life they're living is simply not worthy of the past that they have directly known. And so he begins to have to try to persuade his own people, a few hundred of them living on that mountaintop, that we have to go back down into the civilized world. We have to force our way in if necessary and make a new life for ourselves, which a lot of the archaeology suggests. So, having begun this great endeavor, suddenly a woman from Cyprus shows up who was once a little Cretan girl evacuated after the Thera volcano disaster. She grows up in Cyprus but never forgets the people that she knew. And she comes back to Cyprus to bring Deucalion, and his kinspeople to Cyprus in order to find new lives in a much easier way than they might otherwise face. He can't remember her, and they're sitting on the mountainside together, and she is so elegantly dressed with all the traffic of the world in her clothing, and he is, of course, bemused and amazed by her, becoming, as he says, drunk with the world once again. "It was only 30 years ago," Pyrrha laughed. "I was born far down there in the valley behind Old Emisos." She pointed across the plain, where clouds cast green and silver shadows. "We saw you sometimes at your mother's ceremonies. Then, one morning after the mountain of fire, people put me, a little girl, on one of 7 boats. They were Crete's last boats that you and Ariadne found. This was after the waves. One your men had pulled down from a tree. People called this just a visit ride, but we knew the mainlanders were coming. Excuse me, sir, that I spoke the name you buried, but you were a sweet wine. We were all in tears that day for leaving, or at least because our elders were. You and Ariadne looked torn open, and you told that story to our boat of spoiled children. So today, I have this circle's honor. We made it to Alashaya, Cyprus, because of Ariadne's house. My grandmother 5 back was Alashaya, and Paphos made us family. So, sir, your pardon, but this once, I may say it. Look at me now, Pyrrha beamed. Glorious, and something was coming. She straightened up waist, spine, and shoulders, raised one palm, and lifted her chin to speak as embassy. Achaeans of the mainland said a woman made good hostage in affairs, but from labyrinth days, such daughters had borne things of moment. Trained and seasoned queens of their kind, they understood each other and midwives' standards for a fractious great green. Minos, double-axe man of mountain, moon, sun, shadow, and the pole star door, Deucalion, Minotavros, Otus, who pushes back, we come back for you. We want you and yours to come to Alashaya. Our home is a garden. Pyrrha was looking out with peace of heart on country her own mother. These years of days had burned my eyes on the shape of Dia Island sleeping off the coast, where nothing needful had killed Ariadne. Overwhelmed, I wondered, could I grow a soul her size? Could I really let go, leave, and keep her grace? Another of his aspirations, how do you fight for a new place in the world without losing your very soul in the process? So I'd like to turn to a moment in the 3rd chapter of the book where now they actually go down to the labyrinth and have to settle a lot of old accounts of business with the people who've been occupying their former spiritual center and holding it hostage, as it were, to colonialization, the destruction of their culture. And I'm gathering it right here. I walked through blood and weapons, corpses, writhing forms, Donos dead on his back, with booties lowering a young son's locks down over him. Quinoa dead, his old folks orphans. They helped me to eat my heart at the 4 doors of the throne's sunken anteroom. Down 4 steps inside, the alabaster benches sat empty around a floor of black ironstone set in pink schist, naked wall where once a turquoise tapestry of aisles. My arm let go the shield. 4 doors behind me became 2 in front. In old days this play, the more to see nothing but the one beyond, enthroned. Now this magic doubled iron in my blood. For Cordater, the man, sat there still as an idol in the chamber's crimson flicker. Here, where seated elders of our clans had faced down every would-be Cretan king, nobody faced him. Waiting his turn, but the great palm-painted jar at his feet, the bowls on the inner chamber benches at his side said he had prayed. He gave me nothing as I came in, his gray hands fixed to the knees of his white gold-belted gown, the silver-pointed chin and brow high, eyes straight across the chamber. Gold his wristbands, a yoke of 8 gold necklaces, gold foil holding white locks from his brow with 2 winged horses, lapis blue. He was trying to master me and flinched not an eye when I kicked over the great jar and it smashed, pooling chrism and horse mint. Same instant I read the wall at his back. Gone the great green palm that had shaded our throne's white alabaster. Gone our green hills, waterous, lively quietude. Either side of Cordater's blank face, a sharp-beaked griffin, hunters and devourers, once the reach of our law and a warning to our leaders. Tonight they were monsters come for him, their hook beaks high, with necks craned up to swallow. Wingless, too. A joke laced in by our old-school painters. No wings to carry this fellow up the sky. Too fat, Mother Griffin, with a belly full of great ear monsters waiting to be born. I put the tip of my iron to his plexus. Cordater's breath came big, but his eyes stayed fixed, looking past me. What he saw was the chamber's sunken pit, the grave of summer's sun crown, grave of the miserable self. Minotavros is come. The son of your own lying hand, I said, and then, louder, you sit like a pharaoh. Too bad you're Achaean and in Crete. I thought you people hold it blasphemy impersonating gods. You know me for your own, don't you, Cordater? He blinked once and then deigned to look at me. You cursed clown-faced animal, jabbering lebu. Those guards are meshwesh, he snarled. Smarter dogs come in out of the rain. Oh, to see their knife in your back. Outside, Norax was shouting. Here, I reached to rip Cordater off the throne. And Dog's Day, he cursed, you will never be free of us. My hand threw him across the chamber. He hit the facing stone bench hard, and his body cried out, but not his will. He clambered half up and clutched the arm worst hurt. In the throne's shapely seat, I saw our moon, our sun and star above the mountain. I saw the first and last, myself, to do a thing like this in front of them. Does it hurt when somebody hurts you? Welcome to the world. Too bad you can't stay, spider. Cordater was still bent half up where he fell. A nice, clean little old man, sire. I thought of his lion and their son's deeds sanctified, hard-built towns in ash, burly, brow-beaten yokels whose hope in life was slaves and jewelry, who shipped our mouthy women to their flax farms. Zoe's nose. Flame. I no longer knew who spoke. 1,000 names built this house. For them, Cordater, I give you something. A living chance. I swear it by our family. Look at me. Answer one question. An easy one you should know. Answer, and solemnly you live. Get it over with. What is it then? He sneered, holding hard to the bench. Just tell us about one good thing you have done for Crete in coming here. There must be one good thing. Tell us about it. He tried. Oh, gods, gods! I fetched him, jerked his head back, and drove iron down the root of his neck till the hilt struck collarbone. His eyes were boiling and the throat in his open mouth. I twisted hard around, then ripped out, and his lungs' blood fountained purple from the hole. This is the beginning of Deucalion's revenge. Well, I don't want to spoil anything for you, but you'll see the kinds of challenges it involved. Because for all they went through to get access to some ships to get out of there and into a new life of freedom, here's the ocean before them. the whole new world. So in closing here, thanking you very much for your time and listening, I just want to let you know that the scope of the book from that point only begins to open out into the ancient Mediterranean world, in parallel, of course, with their very human adventures of their families, women, men, and children. So how does a Middle Eastern woman, for example, work as an interlocutor between themselves and the new cultures with whom they have to deal? What happens eventually when, as they evolve into Philistine peoples, they meet and befriend a Hebrew family living comfortably on the land already? And what happens when their mutual respective promised lands collide? The Sea People's promise comes from Pharaoh, "You keep order on my roads, or else." The Hebrews' promise comes from a God known only to them. And so as the two sides try to make their way forward, I hope you'll look into the links below and see what happens. Again, thank you very much for listening, and I will close this out with my gratitude. Peace.